Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer. 5 stakes races on tap at Laurel Park on Saturday. We're going to take a look at the race for 3-year-olds. Race number 9. It's the $100,000 private terms going the about mile and a 16th distance with a very short run going into the first turn. Before we take a look at the field, I'm sure you've heard about this, but Timeform US past performances are now in DRF past performances. You can try for free right now at DRF.com. Access your past performances, click on the Timeform US tab, and take a peek at all of the great features Timeform US has to offer, whether it be the Timeform US Pace Projector, the Timeform US Pace Figures, and all of the other goodies associated with Timeform US. Try for free, DRF.com. Here's the field for the $100,000 private terms stakes. How great is Nate? Well, we didn't find out in the Gotham, Mike. He was 4 for 4 coming in, and he stumbled at the start, and he dropped the jockey, and then he sort of weaved his way through the field, and he made the lead, and he ran all the way around the track, and fans on the internet were saying how great he ran afterwards.
Okay, that's an interesting way to look at a performance like that. Listen, you're right. More than anything else, you're right. We didn't really get to find out anything about him in his 3-year-old debut because he lost his rider. He was really good at 2. The big question, obviously, staring this horse in the face, Dan, is will he stretch out?
Will he stretch out, and how will he handle a tougher field? He was beating some okay bunches at Delaware and at Parks, but not really the cream of the crop in the Mid-Atlantic division. Let's take a look at the Timeform US Pace Projector for this race. As I said in the open, there's a very short run to the first turn here. Coffee with Chris can lead. The good news is that Coffee with Chris can also sit second or third. So it's really all about the break and really all about whether horses like Feeling Woozy or Register are going to be aggressive to his inside.
Yeah, that's kind of how I looked at it too, Dan. I mean, I guess he could certainly make the lead. I didn't think he would be there in this race after they rated him last time, and it worked so well for them. And it just feels like the 2 and the 5 are 2 horses who are definitely going forward in here.
The number 1, Marty's Magic's going to have to improve. He is a 5-start maiden going into the private terms, but he showed some life in his first race over the Maryland circuit. This maiden special, going a mile and a 16th. His first race around 2 turns. As you see, it's over a very sloppy track. He's got to look at it, Mike. He's going to just fall a head shy to the favorite.
Yeah, that's a real chance to win this thing. He's going to surge right up alongside this horse on the lead, and it looks like he's going by, Dan. And ultimately, he doesn't quit trying here. He's very game down to the wire. He just can't get by this horse, and he's going to settle for second best. It's a step in the right direction. Was it because they finally got him stretched out? Was it because they got him off the New York circuit? Was it because he loved a wet track? I mean, those are all questions I guess you have to ask yourself. He did run pretty well in there, though.
Feeling Woozy, the number 2, breaks from an advantageous inside post with speed. He was the pace setter in the Miracle Wood last time out. He set a solid pace. He was no match when Coffee with Chris came calling for him, turning into that long stretch of the mile run. I talked to trainer Hamilton Smith. He doesn't really love the idea of getting to the front, but he'll be forwardly placed with this horse, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really understand the logic of not wanting to use horses' speed, the speed of a horse that you have, but maybe they'll try and rate him again. They should just put him on the lead here again and see what he can do. He did get pretty tired last time, though. To me, that's a pretty big issue. He made the lead in that Miracle Wood when Coffee with Chris came to challenge him. He just really was no match for that horse. He got a little tired at the end. It makes me wonder how far he wants to go, but he's got the credentials to be effective in this race.
There are 2 Triple Crown nominated horses in the field. One of them is the number 3, Circling the Drain, a son of West Coast, trained by Brittany Russell. Now, he's won twice in his career. He's also lost twice. Both of those losses have come at the hooves of Feeling Woozy, and he's going to have to deal with him again. But he looks like he's cycling the right way. Here's Circling the Drain's most recent race. Now, he was 1 to 5 in this short field of first-level allowance horses, and Avion Toledo didn't fool around. He kept this horse on the 4-path on the backstretch so as not to be stuck in traffic, and he kind of just goes about his business once he makes the front, and that makes me wonder, that's the reason why Brittany's putting blinkers on after a win. He just didn't exactly put this field away. Maybe he needs to focus a bit more.
Yeah, that's a fair way to look at it, because ultimately, Dan, I was kind of not taken with that win too much, just because it looked like he was going to win easy and then he really didn't. But maybe he just needs the blinkers. That's fair enough. He's won both times that he's won. He was 1 to 5, and he lost his other 2 races. He is a horse who you don't have to worry about distance with him in here. That's really the only thing I like about him. I just can't say that I'm really blown away by either of his wins. And I just kind of felt like he would take money in here. The 6-1 money line is very fair. If you can get that price, I won't argue. I thought he'd take more money than that.
How Great Is Nate is the number 4. And again, he won his first 4 starts, and the Gotham is just a throwout. And the good news is, when I talked to his trainer, he said the horse came out of the race in very good order. That's why they're wheeling him back in 2 weeks. And they want to find out if he can go 2 turns. They are apprehensive about the 2 turns, these connections, but they want to give this horse at least a fair chance to show what he can do.
He deserves a chance to show what he can do. He was really good at 2, and he ran some fast races, and some races that if he's going to be able to build upon them now as a 3-year-old, he's supposed to be really tough in here if he can get the distance. I thought it was a big question. To me, he didn't really look like a horse who was crying out for more ground as a 2-year-old, but we'll see.
This is a horse that will be getting Lasix again, late change on your PPs. The number 5 is Register, going out for trainer David Dunk. Let's watch his 3rd lifetime start, his maiden win, going a 1-turn mile at Aqueduct. And he was involved basically in a personal match race with his 22-1 shot all the way around the track. And there's no running going on behind them, but boy, this race came back fast. A 93 for Register, who just got his nose down on the wire.
Yeah, that's what makes this race tough to evaluate. He runs really well in here, and he will just hold on at the end. He wasn't finishing that strongly going the mile. But man, they just left the rest of those horses for dead, and they had them all in drives around the turn. Those horses just couldn't keep up. Maybe that's because these 2 horses just ran great. That's certainly possible. I kind of want to see him do it again, but I understand that he's dangerous in here.
I like the agility he showed in that race, because he broke inward pretty badly, and Katie Davis did a really nice job of straightening him out and sending him forward. I talked to David Donk. He's comfortable that this horse is going to be probably a late summer 3-year-old. He feels that distance isn't going to be an issue at all. The number 6 is Hayes Strike. He's the other Triple Crown nominee. And when I talked to Kenny McPeak this morning, he's not giving up on this horse on the Triple Crown trail just yet, because as you look at his PPs, he's got a couple of graded stakes placings. He's faced some nice horses, and in his most recent race at Turfway, McPeak gave me 2 excuses. One's obvious on paper. It was the synthetic surface that he didn't like. 2, he said the ship on that horse was horrible.
All right, yeah, I mean, all those things I guess are valid. To me, he's just one of those horses who I feel like he gets bet for the wrong reasons, Dan, and he'll just get bet because people will see the races that he's been running in. And I would just ask you, I mean, do you think that he ran particularly well in any of those tougher races? He was 3rd in the Kentucky Jockey Club, 3 starts back with an 80 buyer. It says finished fast. I didn't see him finish fast in that race. I just sort of started seeing him grinding down the outside in that race, while Curly Jack and a couple of other horses just got totally trapped in behind horses that had nowhere to go. This horse finished 3rd in there. He could have easily been 6th. I don't know. I just don't think that he's run that well in any of his races, but he's going to get bet because he's seemingly dropping out of tougher races.
But he will get Lasix for the first time. That's been a good move for McPeak over the years, switching with Lasix or any sort of equipment changes. And he will stay the distance, which is a question mark for several of the horses in this field. If he is dismissed at a fair price, I can certainly see him coming. We saw one of the also-rans of that last race come back to upset the Gotham with a 90 buyer. Riccio is up next. Riccio is this big, giant horse that's been crying out for more ground. He's going to get it. He's going to stretch out to 1 mile and a 16th. The problem is, last time, first time gelding, it looked like it was an interesting spot for him, and he just didn't fire.
Yeah, I mean, the added distance better really work for this horse, because he so far hasn't really been that good in any of his races. He faced Coffee with Chris and Feeling Woozy in his most recent start. He got a good trip in that race, and he was no match.
The Maryland-bred Coffee with Chris completes the field. It's a great story. $2,000 yearling. He's already won 10 times. He's easily made out on the $2,000 purchase price. And the question going into the last race, the Miracle Wood, was the distance, especially with the long stretch of a mile run. Here's the Miracle Wood, and he showed his good tactical speed. He sat off the early lead. He got the jump on the favorite, Prince of Jericho, who didn't have a great trip. We see that horse on the far outside. But the good news with Coffee with Chris is, and I talked to Jamie Rodriguez right after the race, he always kept finding more to deny this favorite on the outside.
Yeah, I like that he was able to turn this horse away because that horse who had beaten him in his prior start actually came with some momentum there late in the race, and Coffee with Chris just held him off. I thought it was a real bounce back effort because I didn't really think he ran that well 2 starts back when Prince of Jericho beat him, but he ran a lot better last time. It showed he can get a distance, and it showed he could rate. Most importantly, Dan, I think that's going to be a positive for him going forward.
And talking to Salzman this morning, he's not as concerned about the distance as he is about this terrible post position. He's very unhappy about the post. He's very unhappy about picking up 6 pounds. But Coffee with Chris is a horse who perennially is underrated, it seems, in every single run of his races. He's consistently underrated. Maybe Coffee with Chris is a playable price again. And I think that's where you're going as we take a look at our top selections for the private turns. You are going with Coffee with Chris. We'll see where he is after the first quarter of a mile. If he can break running and settle into a good position, I think he'll be a lot more comfortable.
Me too. And the trip is going to be important for him in here, but I just sort of felt like he could get a good one. He showed that he could, he was comfortable rating last time, and they'd probably be able to pull a similar trip in this race. I really struggled with this race, Dan. I really didn't know where to go, but I liked this horse's last race, and I'm just going to hope he can repeat it here.
We were talking before we came on the air about how tough this race is, and I think I'm just hoping that Circling the Drain goes off close to his morning line odds of 6-1. I'm hoping the blinkers kind of move him forward. There's one thing I know about him, it's the distance is okay, and that might be a big factor in a race where it is a question mark, as we've said, for several of the others. Mike's going Coffee with Chris. I'm going Circling the Drain in the private terms, one of 5 stakes at Laurel on Saturday. Good luck.